better than today. We are certain that we have entered a period which the Tswana-speaking people call Mahube Anakatsa Khomo, the early dawn, when only the tips of the horns of the cattle can be seen early in the morning when it's still dark. Those who are head boys and girls would know what this means. We are so perturbed to notice a new phenomenon and a very disturbing tendency for some motorists who drive and use vehicles without registration numbers. This is a deliberate ploy to avoid detection for traffic violations and to undermine our law enforcement efforts. Our instruction to law enforcement officers is that those individuals found perpetrating this particular offense should not be allowed to get away with a traffic fine only. The vehicle must be impounded and the owner forced to make alternative transport arrangements. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seriously concerned about the recalcitrant behavior of our drivers who willy-nilly take the lives of our law enforcement officers who dedicated their lives to our road users and follow the dictates of the oath they took when they assumed their profession. During the period under review, we unnecessarily lost the lives of our 2 law enforcement officers killed by reckless drivers who do not value life. May their souls rest in peace, and we remember the impact that this has also on their colleagues, because once an officer dies even in the call of duty, it has a bearing on those who actually witnessed the incident. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very concerning that some unwarranted behaviors continues unabated, and this has been ably demonstrated by the successful arrest of 913 for drunken driving. 913 people arrested for drunken driving, and 502 who were caught speeding. In the Western Cape, a driver was arrested with Mendrex and Dagga. In Limpopo, a driver arrested with illicit cigarettes. And while in Gauteng, we recovered 3 hijacked vehicles linked to various serious crimes. The highest speed recorded was in KZN, traveling at 227 kilometers per hour, whilst in Gauteng, the recorded speed was 206 kilometers per hour. In the build-up area, the highest speed recorded was 703 kilometers per hour, and the 173 kilometers per hour, and the suspect was detained in Langlaagte. We urge celebrities and role models to behave in an exemplary manner. And I'm happy to see our road safety ambassador, Ntate Eshnobo, here, who knows exactly what I'm talking about. We have, however, been encouraged by the behavior of the majority of motorists and all road users who showed a willingness to obey the rules of the road. There are few who are still intransigent, and many of them will be appearing in different courts all over the country today. And I hope that the justice fraternity will play ball also and ensure that they get the stiffest penalties. The report we are presenting this morning, ladies and gentlemen from the media, is preliminary, and statistics will be compared to the report released last year. This report entails figures from Thursday, March 24th to Monday, March 28th, 2016. The report indicates that there were 156 fatalities on the roads this year, compared to 287 fatalities for the same period last year. This represents a much welcomed 46% decline. With the exception of the Northern Cape, which recorded the same number of fatalities as last year, all other provinces recorded a decrease in the number of fatalities. Notably, Northwest recorded the highest decrease of 71%, with number of fatalities reduced from 28 to only 8 lives lost this time around. They were followed by the Free State with a decrease of 52%, fatalities reduced from 23 to 11. KwaZulu-Natal experienced a drop of 49%, with fatalities reduced from 55 last year to 28 this year. This sharp decline was achieved in spite of an increase in the number of registered vehicles in the country by 333,226, which translates to 3% increase of the vehicle population. The total number of registered vehicles in February 2016 stood at 11.7 million. On behalf of the government of South Africa, I would like to send our deepest condolences to the families and friends of the deceased, and also wish to those who were injured a speedy recovery. While we welcome the reduction in fatalities this Easter, we do, however, believe that we still have a long way to go. A big milestone reached, but our task is not done yet. For as long as there are people dying on our roads, our work must and will continue. We commend the MECs, the mayors, SALGA, and the traffic law enforcement officers for maintained high levels of visibility on roads throughout the Easter period. We abhor in strongest terms those in uniform who were caught soliciting bribes and issuing fraudulent driver's licenses. I will also wish to commend the RTMC's National Anti-Corruption Unit for their efforts in dealing with bribery, fraud, as well as corruption. 2 traffic officers were arrested in Gauteng and Mpumalanga on allegations of soliciting bribes and corruption, while another was reported in the Western Cape. However, I want to see more results from this unit in dealing with the corruption and fraud committed at driver learner testing centers, which is called DLTCs, as well as at driving schools. For us to restore public confidence in our system, we must also clean up these DLTCs and ensure they operate in an efficient and effective manner. We have heard complaints from the community and driving school operators. The media has also reported about numerous shenanigans at these centers. We also commend the SABC, especially Griselda Lewis, for their undercover work in continuing to expose the rot in this fraternity. Now is the time to act and to bring to book those responsible. I would like to see convictions at provincial as well as municipal levels, where employers take disciplinary action against everyone implicated. We have to close the loop and crack down on these illegal activities within our system. A word of gratitude also goes out to all the fraternal organizations that assisted in making this huge success possible. This includes the youth, the faith-based organizations, and organizations of people living with disabilities, who took various campaigns to raise awareness about, who undertook various campaigns to raise awareness about road safety across the country. We are grateful to religious leaders who use their pulpits to preach and pray about road safety. In particular, I would want to commend the Bishop of the ZCC Church, who devoted 20 minutes of his sermon on Sunday to talk about road safety and educate the public as well as pilgrims about road safety. Let me also thank the media for their role in promoting and publicizing our road safety initiatives and ensuring that everyone in the country is aware of their responsibilities. We look forward to a continued and improved relationship to ensure that we reduce the number of fatalities even further. Though the figures indicate that we have turned the tide a little bit, and as a result, we have the urge to celebrate this achievement, but I must hasten to indicate that we dare not put the foot off the pedal and rest on our laurels. We must press on even harder and maintain the good work we are doing until the day when every single life on our roads will be safe. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude with a quote from Dwight L. Moody when he said, and I quote, "We are told to let our light shine, and if it does, we won't need to tell anybody it does." Lighthouses don't fire cannons to call attention to their shining. They just shine, close quotes. We'll go to every length, breadth, and platform and shall stop at nothing until every soul on our roads is safe. We will leave no stone unturned to ensure that our roads are safe and rid ourselves of those who are deliberately breaking the law. I strongly and sincerely believe that we can avoid these senseless carnages and killings on our roads, as accidents are indeed preventable. We are humbled and wish to thank each and every road user, the drivers, the passengers, the pedestrians, and the general public that heeded our clarion call. The evidences the positive trajectory that we on the right track to proudly join the family of nations in achieving and celebrating the 50% reduction in crashes as espoused in the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. And I thank you.
That is a statement from the Minister. Can you take questions? You know the routine. We'll take 3 questions. First, you introduce yourself, the organization you come from, and your question then. Let's start.
My name is Malungelo from ENCA. Minister, this is good news at the end of the day because it means few lives were lost on the road. But how did we do it? How did we get it right? I think that's the question that everyone wants to know. Thank you.
Good day, Sipho Stilman from the SABC. As my colleague said, this is good news, but Minister, you mentioned that there is still the issue of bribery on the roads, and you've just spoken in the report about 2 officers that were arrested. So how big is the problem? Do you know the extent of the problem? Surely it's bigger than just the 2 officers that were arrested, and what do you plan to do to deal with it? Thank you.
Yes, Chief.
Good morning, Minister. My name is Johnny Sai. I'm with African News Agency in Pretoria. Just on the issue of the schools, with the driving schools and the stations where they do their driving lessons. The issue of corruption, can you give us figures maybe? Because we give us 2 for traffic officers on the roads, but do you have any information on the number of, have there been any arrests so far? And what do you intend to crack down? How will be the operation going on from now? Thank you so much.
Okay.
Leila Magnus from SABC Radio News. Minister, I just want clarity on the fact that you said that people who drive without registration numbers, that they will not only be facing fines, that their cars will be impounded. I just want to know if this is already starting. And then, do you think the fact that there was school holidays before the Easter weekend this year might have had an impact on the decrease of the fatalities, as a lot of people might have taken the few days off and were driving before Easter holidays to their destinations?
Okay. Can we deal with those questions? You'll have another round.
I am here with the DG, the chairman of RTMC, the MEC, the deputy minister, the CEOs, and DDG. So we'll share the questions. Malungelo Boy, thank you very much for the consistency in wanting to know more. I know we were together at the road safety NGO sector platform at Kalaga Estate. And I'm taking it from there because I'm sure you would be aware that that particular platform and the 9 provincial summits that were held to be able to deliberate on the road safety strategy that brought on board the different stakeholders is also what we are applauding. But I'm also aware that you are aware that there has been very aggressive engagements with different organizations, in particular the associations of the disabled as well as youth, but in particular also the religious fraternity coming to the party. In fact, I need to indicate that we do even have videos which churches like the Methodist Church of South Africa has recorded as messages to different members of their church or congregants speaking about road safety. Equally so, you would have been aware of the work that we have done with the ZCC Church, but also the focus with the corridors. In particular, the corridor to the Western Cape, the corridor to KZN, the corridor to Limpopo, but equally so, the central parts in Gauteng, as well as the focus by all 9 MECs. I'm sure you would have been aware that on a daily basis, all the MECs, and I'm sure you wouldn't even see the difference because in most of the instances, they were in uniform equally like the traffic officers, and they operated with the traffic officers. We also saw executive mayors being part of their own initiatives. So the collective effort of South Africans, as well as the three spheres of government, gave us the results that we are seeing today. But also making it possible that through yourselves, the media has really been very aggressively been involved in making people aware about road safety, but also, like I indicated, the work that was done by one of your colleagues, a journalist, to show and run an expose on an illicit roadworthy certificates that was being sold like you would buy a loaf of bread. That effort is exactly what the UN Decade of Road Safety speaks to. Societal involvement, partnership, a collaborative effort by all stakeholders. We've always said that road safety is everybody's responsibility, not only the responsibility of government. Like you would know that we've got more than 11 million vehicles on the roads, and it is 11 million drivers that are behind those particular vehicles. So it means everybody must take responsibility. One of the things that we have also picked up, and I would want to speak to a point that might speak to how did we get it right, is that we have also realized that just giving messages and education is not enough. Strengthening law enforcement. Law enforcement, meaning that even the previous approaches of the speedsters and the drunken drivers who, because of lack of space in police stations as well as in correctional facilities, would be given on-the-spot type of bails. We discouraged that because we wanted to set an example, because it is by seeing that people believe. MEC Comparative actually said they want to feel, and I think the message is coming across now that people will see the doors of prison be closed on them because of their behavior on the road. But we are also saying this is not enough. Remember, the UN Decade speaks to 50% reduction. We're talking about 46% now. We're nearing the 50%. So it means if we can work hard, we can even surpass the 50%, because road crashes and road fatalities are preventable. Are preventable if you obey the rules of the road, you drive a licensed vehicle, and you yourself have got the requisite license and necessary support. But nothing can stop a nation when it is having a common purpose. And this is one of the indications that we have, that as South Africans, people are now saying they've had enough of seeing dead bodies on the roads. They've had enough of running to funerals every now and then. I'm happy to indicate that the faith-based organizations, the churches, have started to say, we are not going to anymore say at a funeral of a road crash a victim, saying that it is the will of God, because God wants us to live. And I think that type of message is starting to come across, where people are being educated. And I want to say that education is very important. And that is why we believe each and every sector of society, including the sporting fraternity, can be able to use their platforms to educate their role players, but also to use it as education. Wherever there is a gathering of people, we need to use it to educate our people. There is a question related to whether the school holidays contributed. In the statement, we did give an indication that because of the 3 days a week in between the weekend of Human Rights Day as well as the Easter weekend, people took leave. We also acknowledge the role of the schools having been closed, but also because we're saying this is preliminary, we also are aware of the fact that many of the school children are still on holiday, and that is why we believe that we are not going to let loose of our grip in terms of law enforcement, in terms of our visibility, to make it possible that those who are still on holiday, when they come back, can equally come back safe and find the roads in being very safe. The fact that school holidays, we need to applaud also the Department of Basic Education. You'd remember that in January, we handed over the torch of peace to the Department of Basic Education, where we said that they should also continue with the Safer Schools program, inculcating it issues of road safety. And I would believe that their involvement in this initiative, and I'm sure all of you would have seen the Department of Basic Education handing over the torch of peace on Human Rights Day to the Department of Justice, which meant that it shows that all of us, even as government sectors or government departments, we are part of this overall awareness program, but also human rights culture that we want to build in the country, where we want to make sure that the people of South Africa feel and are safe at all times as one of the key objectives of government. So we also want to Sipho Stuurman, you asked the question about a bribery. The issue related to what we will do to curb this. And is there more details? The CEO will give more details about the National Anti-Corruption Task Team unit's work, as well as the work that they have done with regard to the driving schools. And without wasting time, I think I'll hand over to the CEO to...
Thank you, Minister. The issue of corruption, we know that corruption is endemic. It is really endemic. As to what the scourge would be and the spate of corruption within our DLTC, it will be presumptuous of us to begin to give the figures. However, we are dealing with corruption. You will know that much as it has never been recorded, a week before the Easter, we did sporadic operations in Belfast. We arrested 2 of our traffic officers and a number of clerical people that were involved in selling driver's licenses. In Northwest, we did the same simultaneously, arresting 2 of our traffic officers and a partner within the driving school. Within the Northern Cape, in the far end of the Northern Cape, we arrested a number of the traffic officers. So the issue of, even Minister, when Chris Helder exposed that issue, it actually derailed the operation on that day because we're in that particular area and we're destined to arrest about 7 of the officials. So the scourge of corruption within our DLTCs is quite huge, but we're equal to the task. In KZN, particularly in the area of Melmoth, we have also arrested the same of our people as well as the driving schools as well as the private sector people in the Eastern Cape in the same week. So we're continuously hard at work in relation to the issuing of fraudulent roadworthy certificate, fraudulent driver's licenses, and one of the topical issues now of late, Minister, is the driver's licenses that are issued to the foreign nationals without even the foreign nationals even having set their foot at the testing centers. I think, Minister, you wanted me to deal with that matter, but I can also, Minister, deal with whether the school closure had any impact on our low statistics. In your statement, Minister, your prelude was to the fact that we did a dry run simply because we are aware that this will be asked as to whether the closure of the school had any impact. During that period, we reduced the death, our death statistics from 121 to 46. So wanted to ensure that we begin to compare apples with apples. Indeed, the intensified law enforcement had a bearing in the reduction of these figures.
But just to add on the issue of the driving license that are being fraudulently procured in the country, we have indications of centers or the nests where these are happening. I won't mention them here publicly because it will be sending a warning to them. We are on their tracks. We have operatives that have come to the fore to say we are prepared to work with the law to make it possible that we can show where they are. There are people who went to buy these licenses who are have given already, statements, and are prepared to cooperate with the law. So we're looking at making it possible that we can deal with these nests because we know exactly where they are. And I want to say through the media, inform them that we are on their tails. We know now where they operate from. Together with this anti-corruption task team nationally, we will be engaging with them. Deputy Minister, you wanted to say something?
Just on the Thank you, Minister. On the issue of people driving vehicles without registration or number plates, as we speak in South Africa, the legislation demands of us to all the time drive cars that are registered and licensed and bear number plates. Anything other than that is actually committing traffic offenses. And therefore, we've got to act now. Just in 30 minutes on Tukela Toll Plaza yesterday, more than 10 vehicles passed, and 10 of them, more than 10 of them had no registration number plates. And you could actually see that these are not brand new cars. Even brand new cars, you only have, I think, 21 days for you to register and actually buy a number plate and put it on the car. But those were not brand new cars. What it means is that this person is deliberately avoiding anything that is supposed to pick up the car on the road. And they're going to drive at whatever speed, you'll not be able to pick up that. If there is a hit or they are in an accident, they can actually run because you can't pick up the car because they are not bearing the number plates. And as a result, what the minister has said, it has to happen with immediate effect. It cannot be delayed because the law, the legislation allows us to take and of course, deal with these people. So I just wanted to mention this point. It's quite a number of people that are driving cars without number plates. It happened, I saw it myself yesterday, and of course on other days, and it cannot be allowed to happen. We've got to stop it and stop it right now. Those people must actually be inconvenienced by taking the car, arresting them, so that they know that they can't do it. It is against the law.
Okay.
Take another round, Sipo. Perry will come after.
Sipo Masombuga for the Times newspaper. Minister, you've mentioned that you were encouraged by the general will to obey the rules of the road. Based on your observation on your briefing, what were the main causes of the accidents that resulted in the deaths of 156 people? Thanks.
Perry.
Good morning, Barry Bateman, Eyewitness News. First question, could you just give me the exact comparative period for the periods under review between, we've got this year's exact period. Can you just give me that date for last year, just so we can have an idea? Secondly, on this issue of the license plate number, I think it was the Deputy Minister who just said that legislation empowers you to arrest and impound the vehicle. Please tell me which legislation you're specifically referring to, the provisions there, because my understanding of the law is that if somebody's driving without a number plate, the police officers would give that person a fine. Under what authority are you instructing the police to now impound that person's vehicle? Because it could be a very legitimate reason why they don't have the plate. You cannot assume that they are all willing, taking them off so that they can, get away from the law enforcement officials. So under what authority are you giving that instructions to the law enforcement officials? Thank you.
Stuurman.
Postman again from SABC. Just on the issue of drunken driving, that does not seem to be going down. As you mentioned here, the figures are at nearly 1,000. What are you going to do to prevent this? And what are you going to do to enforce the law and make sure that drivers comply, especially when it comes to, because we know some of these accidents mostly happen when drivers are under the influence. So they are a big contributing factor to the crashes. Thank you.
Is that all? Okay. That's all, Minister.
The CEO will answer the one of the main causes per category, but I just want to indicate that for this period we have realized a very reduced number in particular for pedestrians, but we want to see the day no single individual in South Africa walking to any point will be knocked down by a vehicle. But also, I will allow the MEC from the Free State to answer some of the questions, and the CEO will give the details under the areas that were raised as a concern.
Thank you very much, Minister. Barry, anything that is commissioning crime, a peace officer has a right to remove that, because the intention of those vehicles is commissioning of crime. And I have taken many in the Free State, even yesterday, and put them on the pound, because that is commissioning of crime, and we are dealing with them. And I think you can come to the Free State, you will see I will impound it because it is in a commission of crime, and therefore I will take it.
But I also want to say to Barry, I think it is not in a good spirit for you, maybe the way you are raising it. Your posture, it's actually displaying in a defense of wrongdoers, which I don't think it is your intention, because I know you regularly report on road safety and road-related matters. So I hope that the mahecha is not an intention to, I don't know English, I speak Setswana, but I felt mahecha agago.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Barry.
Before you are.
Okay. Let's correct this young chap. Let's correct him.
Mr. Bateman, as you know, I'm the chairman of this corporation, and the NTPs are housed under my command. And I'm also a lawyer, good one for that matter. Regulations, I'm looking at the regulations that were signed under the hand of the minister. You may take a note. Regulation number 38142. If you read from regulations 10, they deal with licensing, registration, those vehicles that are exempt, and it also says this, which is very elementary. The purpose for which the regulations were enacted were to ensure that any vehicle that is on the road is linked to someone who will take responsibility. Now, the number plate is but one form of certification. If you do not have your number plates affixed, and assuming that your car is new, you will have a paper permit, which on a literal reading of Regulation 10 is exactly that. After 21 days, you are obliged by law to then have a number plate affixed, not only by those flag holders. You need a pop ribbit for that matter, because people remove them when they go into certain provinces, commit offenses, and then they slide them back in. So we are not encouraging our officers to willy-nilly break the law. We are actually saying enforce the regulations that are already in existence. They were assented to. In fact, the amendment was on the 31st of October, 2014. So we know what we're talking about. We have given our officers an instruction that is in accordance with the law, and we will continue to impound those vehicles. Yes, we are quite animated, but I understand you had to ask the question. But that is the answer. We're not operating outside the confines of the law. Thank you.
Perhaps you might also want to read Regulation 35. That will also deal with this aspect, but particularly the National Road Traffic Act also. It's couched in a peremptory word. It's not optional. It's peremptory. On those bases, the law enforcer will not allow the vehicle to continue with the journey because that vehicle is not compliant. It is within the regulation, specific regulation, Regulation 35, specific to the Act, the National Road Traffic Act. But then when we deal with the issues that have also been raised as to what the causes were in relation to the accidents that we've had, most in terms of the percentages, you'll realize that the major cause was 3 elements. One were the pedestrians, as well as the drivers. Very little were related to unroadworthy vehicles, simply because during this period, we had on-site mobile testing stations. So the issue of the roadworthiness was dealt with even prior the vehicles and the public transport vehicles were to undertake their journeys. But one of the issues that have been one of the factors, it also relates to one of the matters, it's fatigue, that drivers are at all material times fatigued. It is, of course, inconsiderate or reckless driving, particularly overtaking on the burial line or on the curve. But the last one also relates to the issue of drunken driving. Those are the key elements that have caused serious carnages on our road. But it also, the minister has indicated within the statement of the number of people that were caught driving under the influence of liquor. But Minister, we need also to indicate this. There's also a growing tendency within South Africa that passengers also drink while the car is in motion, tempting the driver to also have the appetite to drink. And these are some of the major causes that we have caused these accidents. Well, what we can also give, I thought I was giving it, Jeff, I thought they were going to get these issues. Within the minister's statement, we have given the percentages. 38% there too could be attributed to single vehicles that have overturned. But why have those vehicles overturned? We have dealt with that aspect. The number of 23% is attributed to accidents with pedestrians, as well as a number of accidents on the head-on. The head-on is particularly where you overtake, where you are not supposed to overtake, where you overtake on the sunrise. These are the major causes that we have had.
MEC, you were saying there's a question that has not. Oh, the periods, the periods we are comparing.
These periods are consistent. Last year, we dealt with a period between the 2nd to the 6th of April, simply because the Easter was in April. So we had an early season this year when the Easter, this period dealt with the 24th to the 28th. It's the same period. But what is also interesting with those periods, the period previously was also preceded by the closure of the schools. So the material conditions and the factors are still the same.
Just a quick also information that may be useful to the media. Some of these questions that we are fielding today have brought about a realization on our part that we as a corporation do not communicate as well as we should. And in an attempt to heed the criticism that came from members of the Fourth Estate, I'm just showing you this now. We are going to be publishing a monthly newsletter which contains the highlights and some of these issues. For example, issues of the milestones, issues of the operations, as and when the information is ripe to be shared. We also publish our toll-free number, which assists us a lot in this period because some of the vehicles that were pulled off the road were as a result of other people phoning in the 0861 400 800 number. And then what we'll also do, we'll dedicate a page to deal with other pieces of legislation that enables us to say the things that we say, because people think that we are just dreaming these things up. But I think in the next 2 weeks or so, it will be back from print, and it is a standard by which we are hoping that you'll judge us by, so that we communicate this information, even without us appearing to be on the defensive. Lastly, it's a pity Gary has stepped out. I wanted him to take a note. Oh, yes, Gary, after this, offline, I'm going to give you a copy of the Gazette that I'm talking about. But Section 56A, which came into operation on the 1st of December, 2015, specifically spoke to this issue. It is important because, as the DM has said, if 10 people can go through our gantries displaying no number plates, it means either people are arrogant or they're downright, you know what, negligent. So we have a responsibility to assist them. It is not a small issue, DM. It is not a small. If that person does something and they disappear, we have no way of tracking them. There was a gap in the regulations under the National Traffic Act, which resulted in this amendment that you signed off on the 1st of December 2015. That says not only do you have to display a number plate, it must be affixed. It also talks about the manner of affixing. Section 56, capital A, amended, but I'll give you a copy offline. I just thought for the benefit of everybody, because you are our partners, we need to impart information to you so that you know when we say people will be retested. We're not saying so because it's something that is done at a whim. There are regulations, and you may also identify other gaps in the regulations that can deal with certain misdemeanors. And as and when those come forward, we'll go back and say, Minister, there's a need for you to amend the regulations with the addition of these other things to make sure that we close the space for law enforcement, people who commit these misdemeanors. I really wanted to put that to paid because I'm glad that question came, Gary, so that we get an opportunity to deal with it once and for all.
I just also want to indicate that every time we've got the road safety summits, there are resolutions and recommendations that are made by the different participants, which include our non-governmental organization as well as other partners. And it is based on their experiences as well as their inputs that we always amend and develop these regulations. But I also believe that the latest draft, and I would want a CEO and chairperson of RTMC maybe to have a special day now where the media is not observing to ask questions. You have an opportunity to present the draft to them. Let them also make their own inputs as key stakeholders because they are our partners to advance the message so that we have a common understanding on what is it that we want to achieve as South Africa with regard to road safety. And I would believe that as the media, when you ask questions, you're helping to educate and inform the public, and you're helping to advance our communication strategy. So it is important that you are equally updated on the different, the different regulations and pieces of legislation that we are working on to make it possible that we can enhance road safety. But I would believe that we do need a special day with you here, not even a day, a couple of hours here at the premises of the RTMC for you just to be taken on board with regard to the road safety strategy so that you can then be able to continuously, even in the absence of the minister, deputy minister, and MECs and RTMC and other agencies, to be able to continue educating our public because you are doing a good service to the nation and we need you on our side. Thank you very much.
I know you're keen for one-on-ones. Can I have last round? Perry?
Barry Bateman once again. Minister, just on the issue of our, talking about e-tolls and our gantries, on the issue of e-tolls, the collection drive that has been embarked on by Sunwell, and the issue, the uptake of people for the e-tags and the compliance levels. I understand that there's going to be meetings soon between Moody's and Sunwell on the issue of the debt. What is your position on that? Are you encouraged by what is happening? Just your thoughts on that.
Perry, can you take that on the one-on-one, please? Can you talk road safety for now, and then that question we'll take on the one-on-ones. Okay. If there's no further question, Minister, your concluding remarks, and then we will have one-on-ones with those who are keen on that.
In conclusion, I just want to say to South Africans, continue obeying the rules of the road, continue complying with the laws of this country, continue loving to live and loving to allow others to live by making it possible that whenever you get into a vehicle, you become conscious of the fact that it can be a lethal weapon if not used correctly. Let us make sure that we've got the right papers. Let us make sure that our vehicles are licensed properly. Let us also be each other's keeper or each other's brother or sister's keeper. When you see somebody driving an unroadworthy vehicle, alert him or her to get it attended to, or alert the law enforcement officers. But I also want to say, on the road, when we drive, let us also know that the road is a shared space. No one owns the road. It belongs to all of us. And we need to make sure that we use it correctly so that even the next generations should be able to still use the roads. So it is important that you can also use the RTMC toll-free number for reporting unsafe road usage or any traffic-related corruption, 0861 400 800. And I repeat, 0861 400 800. And I would believe that we will always make this number available publicly so that people should know. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the media, for having been available throughout the weekend to make it possible that you can carry the messages that we are sending to our people. But I just want to say to our journalists, don't get disappointed if there are no major crashes. Like some were saying, Minister, are you telling us there is no story? For the media, it cannot be a story when our people have died in large numbers. Let us say it is a story when we have run out of stories to tell, because then we will be able to unearth other good stories to be able to tell to the nation of South Africa. So it cannot be a good story that 46% a reduction. Yes, it is in terms of the efforts we have put in, but we want zero. A life lost on our roads is one too many. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the press conference. We now take one-on-ones. Other colleagues can quietly walk out, please, so that we can take the one-on-ones.
Okay. Just because of the flights that I have to, they leave early that side, so otherwise I will be coming back to you. That's all. If there's one rule that gives you at least 9, please. Also,